I am but a humble beta male, yet I am wed to a distinguished alpha husband. He hails from a prestigious lineage, exuding grace and propriety, the sole deviation from decorum being our union. Despite the lack of blessings from those around us, we remain unperturbed. However, by the 3rd anniversary of our marriage, I found myself at a breaking point. I expressed my desire for a divorce, for if I did not depart soon, the accumulated burdens in the basement would inevitably find their way into my very being. 1. Darling, what did you say? Please repeat that. Fu Chengbai's voice was soft, as if he genuinely had not heard me. I instinctively tightened my grip around the chopsticks in my hand, my eyes fixated on the breakfast he had prepared so lovingly. The words I wished to divorce lodged in my throat. Is it about last night? At the mere mention of the previous evening, my cheeks flushed crimson, and I felt akin to a cooked shrimp, wishing to curl inwards. Alas, the soreness in my waist forbade such a retreat. Fu Chengbei gazed intently at me, his handsome, gentle visage marked by a trace of helplessness. After a moment, a light chuckle escaped his throat as he rose and enveloped me in his embrace. Habitually, I parted my legs, settling upon him, resting my chin despondently on his shoulder. Let us not speak of last night again. I caressed my flushed face, my voice laced with a plea. Fu Chengbei has always been exceptionally accommodating, at this moment. Responding to my request, he nodded while using his warm palms to massage my lower back. Very well, I shall refrain from mentioning it. Hearing his assurance, I exhaled in relief. The pressure at my waist was soothing, and coupled with a satisfying meal, I began to feel drowsy. As reason succumbed to slumber, I drowsily uttered once more, I want a divorce, ouch. The sudden increase in pressure at my waist jolted me awake. I attempted to rise, but Fu Chengbei held firm at my sensitive spot. I felt utterly drained. My calves, which had previously been cramping, now lacked the strength to stand upright. Zhou. Fu Chengbei seldom addressed me by my name. Typically, I am baby, wife, or little you. His use of my full name in such a tone was a rarity. The last time he had done so was when I had been intoxicated at a class reunion, conversing with my first love. Upon turning, I had seen Fu Chengbei standing under the shadow of an umbrella. A smile graced his lips, yet his tone was as cold and damp as a rainy day. The potent pheromones of Class Alpha nearly suffocated me, especially in the presence of my mere beta first love. That moment, Fu Chengbei had similarly smiled, softly uttering, Zhou. I had hastily scurried beneath his umbrella, awkwardly introducing my first love, who wore a face of regret. This is my husband, Fu Chengbei. Instantly, the oppressive pheromones dissipated. Fu Chengbei even wrapped his arm around my waist, gently bidding farewell to my first love. That evening, he prepared a grand feast that I naively believed that the incident had been laid to rest, until the invasive and primal urges within me were forcefully awakened, making it painfully clear that Fu Chengbei had not calmed his ire. Reflecting on the week I took off afterward, I trembled with fear. Seizing a moment of distraction, I managed to wriggle free from his embrace. I'm going to be late for work, I must be off. Please think things over. Whether Fu Chengbei would contemplate my words, I could not ascertain. All I knew was that anxiety was consuming me at my workstation. As I was about to pour myself a cup of tea, my phone chimed. It was not a message from Fu Chengbei, but rather from a college roommate who is currently engrossed in coding. His message was succinct, accompanied by a shocked emoji. Zhou, their essay hidden tracking software on your phone. I leaned back in my chair, exhaling a sigh of relief. It was as I had suspected. Recalling a few days prior when Fu Chengbei had asked me to retrieve something from the nightstand, I had inadvertently spotted a miniature surveillance camera facing the bed. A wave of profound helplessness washed over me. Yes, I'm aware. Thank you. I'll treat you to a meal another day, I replied. My roommate hesitated. Aren't you going to report this? My heart skipped a beat, and I hurriedly typed back. No, it's something between my partner and me, you know? He responded with a lewd emoji. After exchanging a few more words, I hastily logged off. Gazing at my computer wallpaper, I reflected that, in comparison to the surveillance and the tracking software on my phone, the things lurking in the basement were far more terrifying. Terrifying enough to feel entirely incongruent with Fu Chengbei. This also reminded me of the reasons behind my marriage to him. At the time, I had just graduated from university and was unemployed, temporarily residing at home. To call it a home would be a stretch. My mother, a formidable woman, had passed away in a car accident when I was 10. My father, who had lived a life of honesty, remarried a month after my mother's funeral. Not long after, they had a son afflicted with a genetic disorder. My stepmother was not unkind, but she was indifferent. My father sent me to a boarding school and remitted money monthly. Whenever I returned home for the holidays, I felt like an outsider. The prolonged neglect, coupled with my status, gradually transformed me into a taciturn individual. much like my father. Upon returning home after graduation, my stepmother, noticing my prolonged unemployment, began orchestrating blind dates for me. She explained that my brother's condition had worsened and required urgent surgery. Our family could not afford the medical expenses. If I married, the bride price could alleviate our immediate financial crisis. I was unwilling to barter my marriage for money. Yet, observing my father's hunched figure and the cigarettes that flickered throughout the night, I acquiesced. I accepted the blind dates, but each suitor, chosen by my stepmother, found fault with my reticence and my outdated attire. Whenever the topic of bride price arose, I would stammer and argue nervously, ruining every encounter. After my fourth failed blind date, I met Fu Qinghua. He was the epitome of academic excellence and charm, the person I had admired throughout my university years. Everyone aspired to be like Fu Qinghua, and I was no exception. Those who linger in the shadows yearn for light. If it weren't for a financial and computing networking event, we might never have crossed paths. However, our acquaintance was limited to exchanging contact information, which felt trivial in the grand scheme of things. I never anticipated encountering him here, nor that he would initiate a conversation with me. I awkwardly stated my purpose for being there, my ears flushed with warmth beneath my half-long hair. Upon learning that I was disheartened by a failed blind date, Fu Qinghua was taken aback. Then, with a benevolent expression, he proposed, "How about we get married? My family is pressuring me to settle down as well. You can help me fend off my family's marriage urgencies, and I can assist you with your financial predicament. What do you think?" Hearing the languid inflection in his voice as he asked, my heart raced, and I hurriedly bid farewell and fled. Upon returning home, I heard my father's silent sigh. "Your brother's condition has deteriorated and requires urgent surgery. Your Aunt Shin and I have decided to sell the house to gather the funds for the operation. This house was our family's sole asset." I glanced at the stooped figure at the doorway and messaged Fu Qinghua. He replied swiftly, "I'm pleased. Looking forward to our collaboration." The wedding proceeded swiftly, and the bride price Fu Qinghua provided granted my brother a new lease on life, allowing our family to step back from the brink of despair. I was immensely grateful to Fu Qinghua. Thus I feigned ignorance to the whispers of those who claimed I was unworthy of him. At the moment the peace doves were released, he kissed me willingly. In that instant, I understood the meaning of weakness in my knees and the sensation of fireworks igniting in my mind. Post-marriage, Fu Qinghua exhibited restraint and propriety, never overstepping boundaries without my consent. Yet, there was scarcely a moment when I refused him. Gradually, our marriage began to feel increasingly authentic, and the bond between Fu Qinghua and me grew more intimate. Had I not stumbled into the basement a few days ago, perhaps this blissful existence could have continued for a long time. Reflecting on this, I released a deep sigh. A colleague patted my shoulder. "Zhou, it's my birthday party tonight. Would you like to come?" The gathering promised a large turnout, and I instinctively felt averse. Before I could voice my rejection, my colleague expressed regret. "You never come when I invite you. Not even for my birthday. I've invited everyone from the studio. Just missing you." I mentally cursed. "What time does it end?" My colleague's face lit up with hope. "We can wrap up by 8, and I'll drive you home. So you 1T miss your curfew." I retorted, "I don't have a curfew. I didn't want to return too late." As Fu Qinghua finished work early, I didn't want him to be alone at home. "Don't worry, we'll be done by 8 sharp. I'll personally see you home." After some hesitation, I finally nodded. As soon as my colleague left, I received a message from Fu Qinghua. "Baby, what time do you finish work?" I typed a response, but was called away by the team leader. It wasn't until the end of the workday that I could check my phone, only to be met with a barrage of messages and calls from Fu Qinghua, which made me feel evasive. Just as I was contemplating whether or not to reply, my colleague approached. "Let us go, get in the car." I promptly shut my phone and entered my colleague's vehicle. At the party, everyone seemed to be enjoying themselves, except for me. I realized I still detested crowded places. Watching my colleagues drink and cheer, I absent-mindedly picked at the food on my plate, and a thought crossed my mind. The food here wasn't nearly as delectable as what my husband makes. Abruptly, I halted. "Zhou, what are you thinking? You're about to divorce him. Why are you still thinking about him?" After chastising myself harshly, I dedicated myself to eating. Once the meal concluded, I glanced at my watch and saw it was already 8:30. Panic surged within me as I prepared to leave. My colleague, apologetic, offered to drive me home. I looked around at the crowded room and shook my head. "It's fine. Enjoy yourself. I'll take a taxi home." Eventually, I successfully hailed a cab, and by the time I returned home, it was nearly 9:30. Observing the brightly lit house, I felt a chill run down my spine. I raised my sleeves to smell, ensuring there were no unusual odors, then took out my keys and turned the doorknob. "You're back?" I jumped, startled like a mouse caught off guard, as my hair stood on end. Seeing Fu Chunghua leaning against the dining table, I felt my heart race. "Ah yes, I'm back." He approached with measured steps, his face still adorned with a warm smile. "Did you work late tonight? Why didn't you respond to my messages?" I nodded vaguely, turning to notice the spread he had prepared on the table. "You cooked?" Fu Chunghua took my coat and cradled it in his arms. "Yes, dinner was ready by 7. I've been waiting for you." I unconsciously touched my overly full stomach, allowing the guilt within me to drown me. Why hadn't I just informed him? I had kept him waiting for so long. "I'm sorry. I worked late and forgot to tell you." Then my colleagues ordered late-night snacks, and I got one as well. I lowered my head, concealing myself in the shadows, afraid to meet Fu Chunghua's gaze. Fu Chungbai chuckled softly, his large hand gently ruffling my hair a few times. "It's all right, now that you've had your fill, go wash up. I'll put these dishes in the fridge." His understanding nature only deepened the guilt I felt within me, causing even the thought of divorce to wane. I grasped Fu Chengbai's hand and, on tiptoe, embraced him lightly. "I'm sorry." Fu Chengbai paused, then wrapped his arm around me, a sigh escaping his lips as it brushed against my head. "It's fine, but next time something like this happens, please inform me in advance, or else the ingredients will go to waste." "All right, darling?" I nodded, a bittersweet ache lingering in my heart. After washing up, I lay on the large bed, gazing at the enormous wedding photo of us, my fingers twisting in a tangle of emotions. How could someone as exceptional as Fu Chengbai be so accommodating towards me after marriage? Perhaps the items in the basement weren't even his? The surveillance cameras might merely serve to deter thieves, given the many valuable possessions in the house. The locator in my phone could be for protection rather than monitoring. After all, the Fu family was prominent, and enemies were likely abundant. If I were ever kidnapped for ransom, that locator would be the best means of finding me. Clad in my silk pajamas, I continued to reassure myself, the notion of divorce growing fainter, nearly vanishing altogether. "Darling, I've washed this coat for you," Fu Chengbai called out, prompting me to spring up towards the bathroom. "Which one?" He held up the camel-colored coat I had worn that day. "This one, it has quite an unpleasant odor." "Did something spill on it?" I scratched my head, pondering for a long while. "No, not that I know of." A slight smile faded from the corners of Fu Chengbai's mouth. "That should be the scent of pheromones." I nodded, it seemed so. He leaned in to sniff, his striking profile facing me, igniting my infatuation anew. "The scent is quite strong. Were you very close to someone?" "Not that I was aware of. After all, I was alone, and I couldn't detect anything." "Could it be that you misinterpreted?" "I didn't really get close to anyone today." "Is that so?" Fu Qingbai chuckled lightly. "Have you finished your shower?" I nodded, the damp ends of my hair flicking droplets as I did. He placed the coat in the washing machine, adding a generous amount of detergent. Before I could voice my confusion, he stood up and approached me. His strong fingers brushed through my dark hair, and in a voice tinged with laughter and weariness, he asked, "Why haven't you dried your hair again?" Just as I intended to retreat, he wrapped an arm around my waist, swiftly lifting me in his arms. "Be good, go dry your hair first." I contemplated resisting but decided against it. Holding the hairdryer aloft was tiring. If Fu Chengbai was willing, I might as well let him do it. Habitually, I found myself seated on the sink as he used the hairdryer. The warm air and his gentle fingers played through my strands. I caught a glimpse of our reflections in the mirror, two figures, one tall and one short, with distinctly different skin tones, and suddenly realized the strangeness of his earlier act of adding so much detergent. Though Fu Chengbai did do laundry, it was usually for my smaller garments. Moreover, that coat seemed unsuitable for machine washing. As the thought crossed my mind, I blurted it out without thinking. "Fu Qingbai, are you jealous?" His hands faltered in my hair, and he switched off the hairdryer. A soft kiss landed on the crown of my head. "As your husband, I believe jealousy is a natural response. My love for you breeds possessiveness." My mind swirled, captivated by the weight of his declaration. Fu Chengbai had professed his love many times, yet most of those moments occurred in bed when both of us were less than lucid. This was the first time he had confessed so clearly and directly. I felt suddenly awkward, unsure where to place my hands and feet. "But I love you too, yet I don't feel possessive over you." Fu Chengbai pinched my waist and unexpectedly kissed my lips. When the kiss ended, I gasped for air, collapsing into his embrace. "If I treated others this way, would you be happy?" My muddled brain scrambled to process his words. Fu Chengbai kissing someone else? The image caused a dull ache in my heart. Was that why I felt possessive over him? As I struggled to untangle my feelings, Fu Changbai had already carried me to the bedroom. "Sweetheart, I noticed you haven't slept well these past few days, so I warmed some milk for you." A cup of warm milk was offered before my eyes. Without much thought, and oblivious to the deeper meaning in Fu Qingbai's gaze, I accepted the cup and drank it down in one go. The milk was sweet, a bit different from what I usually consumed. I licked the remnants from the corner of my mouth. "Did you put sugar in it?" Fu Changbai remained silent, brushing aside the stray hair from my forehead and resting his forehead against mine. "I didn't add any sugar." I found myself drowning in the depths of his eyes, my head growing increasingly foggy. Only when my vision blurred did I sense something was amiss. Turning my head to look at the empty cup, my thoughts flickered back to the earlier surveillance, the locator, and the basement, leading to an inconceivable thought. "Did you drug me?" Before I could finish the question, my mind went blank, and my eyes uncontrollably closed. Just before I completely lost consciousness, I heard Fu Qingbai's gentle words. "Darling, I could have kept this up for a long time. Why did you have to mention divorce?" Upon awakening, I felt nothing but a soft ache throughout my body, devoid of any other discomfort. I struggled to open my eyes and survey my surroundings. The room was unfamiliar. Aside from a bed, there was nothing else. Raising my hand to rub my temples, I was halted by a tug at my wrist. Looking down, I discovered a chain about the thickness of my thumb. It wasn't quite accurate to call it a chain. It resembled some sort of bondage accessory. My inner self screamed in panic. What on earth was happening? I strained to recall memories, and in my hazy mind, a possibility emerged. I might have been imprisoned by Fu Changbai. If that were the case, did it mean I wouldn't have to go to work? The thought struck me and I slapped myself hard. What nonsense was I entertaining? The pain jolted me awake. Just as the door swung open, I looked up to see Fu Qingbai entering. Upon seeing my face, his expression turned cold in an instant. This was the first time in our 3 years of marriage that I had witnessed him wear such a frosty demeanor. The warm, courteous Fu Qingbai I knew seemed to have vanished entirely. As I pondered in confusion, he had already approached me. His icy fingertips brushed against my face, soothing the sting of pain. "Why did you hit yourself?" he asked, incredulous. How could he even ask? I lifted my hand to reveal the rattling chain. "What does this mean?" Fu Qingbai's fingers curled around it. "I locked you up so you won't see anyone else, ensuring you won't want a divorce." I grasped the implications of his words. So, Fu Qingbai believed my desire for divorce stemmed from infidelity? I found it hard to believe. Even if I had feelings for someone, would they reciprocate? I longed to question him, but the moment I met his cold gaze, my voice faltered. "I haven't looked at anyone else." My throat felt dry, and my explanation came out in stilted fragments. Fu Changbai seemed disinclined to hear any explanations, raising his hand to silence me with his fingertip pressed against my lips. "Sure, do not utter a word. You used to keep me informed at all times. Yet that night you returned late, reeking of that dreadful pheromone and alcohol, and you wouldn't even deign to reply to my messages. Darling, is this what you mean by not seeing anyone else?" The corners of Fu Qingbai's eyes reddened, and the image of the gentle gentleman he had maintained began to crumble. "You have always been so obedient. It must be that person who has led you astray, right? Please tell me who he is, darling." My cheeks were stuffed full by Fu Qingbai's grip, rendering me incapable of responding to his ludicrous speculations. Fu Qingbai, I didn't." Lost in his own conjectures, Fu Qingbai heard nothing. "And you still want a divorce? Can you truly bear to be apart from your husband? I have nurtured you from a mere dumpling into someone so resplendent, drinking only the finest Longjing tea." Fu Qingbai began to unbutton my shirt. His teeth sank into my collarbone, grinding it delicately between his lips. "You only sleep on soft beds, cover yourself with silk quilts, and wear haute couture that must be tailored by a skilled seamstress." My stomach began to ache. I lifted my chin, tears streaming from the corners of my eyes. Fu Changbai kissed each tear away with a sigh. "So timid, so delicate, and yet you wish for a divorce?" His fingertips slipped between my lips, teasing me like a playful puppy. "Do you still want a divorce? Still wish for it?" Fu Qingbai's tone was lofty, as though he expected a definitive answer from me. My previously waning thoughts of divorce surged back amidst the pain and fury. I gripped Fu Qingbai's arm tightly, forcing a single word from my throat. "Leave." Silence engulfed the room. Even our breaths became cautious. Slowly, Fu Changbai released his fingers, moisture trailing down my face and pooling at my neck. His fingertips pressed against my pulsating carotid artery. Fu Changbai lifted his gaze, restoring that gentle and warm demeanor. "Darling, please say it again." I swallowed hard, my heartbeat slowing. The pressure on my neck felt like a sword, my body issuing a sharp warning in the face of death. Suddenly, I felt a swell of grievance. Recklessly, "I pushed fucking by Yaoi. I want a divorce. You monitor me, install trackers. You even put cameras in the bathroom. And those things in your basement." I completely broke down. From discovering these betrayals to confirming they were all Fu Qingbai's doing, and finally witnessing his true nature, it all shattered me. My eyes were blurred with tears, and I felt utterly pathetic. I grabbed Fu Qingbai's arm, biting down fiercely. The more distressed I became, the harder I bit until I tasted blood before finally releasing him. Fu Qingbai's expression remained unchanged, even raising an eyebrow as he offered his other uninjured arm before me. "Bite me," and after that we mentioned divorce. I refused to bite and attempted to rise. To my dismay, I found my ankle shackled by a golden chain. "Unlock it." Fu Qingbai shook his head. "I will not." We had reached an impasse. "Who is that person?" I turned in disbelief. "Did you hear what I just said?" Fu Qingbai nodded. Yes. He heard and still asked about that person. Did such a person even exist? I kicked at the hand that was caressing my ankle. What did I say? Fu Qingbai grasped my other foot, applying more pressure, rendering me unable to break free. It was definitely turning red. "You said you wanted a divorce." I waited, trying to steady my breath. And then, Fu Qingbai paused, seemingly expressing through his expression and gestures. "And then what?" I knew. "You hear only what you wish to hear. Do you know why I want a divorce? You come at me with confinement without a single question. Fu Qingbai, I can no longer endure you." I had lived for 23 years, and this was the first time I had spoken so much. It was also the first time my emotions had been so evident. All thanks to Fu Qingbai. Fu Qingbai was like a stone, impossible to communicate with. Otherwise, should I just watch you divorce me? Again, with this rhetoric. I had already provided the answer. There was no point in discussing it. After all, how does one communicate with a foul stone? I was not a princess adorned with gems. The anger in my heart dissipated. "Do as you wish, I shall divorce you. If you have the ability, bind me for life." Perfect, I wouldn't have to work or socialize. I swiftly rolled into bed, distancing myself from the stone. The moment Fu Qingbai heard me utter the word divorce, his expression shifted. Cold and obsessive, he resembled a psychopath. He stared at me with piercing eyes for what felt like an eternity before finally standing up to leave. Before closing the door, I snapped, "Bring me my game console." The game deadline was tomorrow, and I was just one level away from completing it. The only response I received was the resounding slam of the door. I clutched the corner of the blanket, counting while contemplating. Did Fu Qingbai grant me leave? My perfect attendance for the month was gone. I calculated my little treasury, and it amounted to an 8-digit sum. But then I remembered, if we divorced, it would no longer be mine, and a wave of melancholy washed over me. I would give Fu Qingbai one more chance. If he failed to explain once more, then I would proceed with the divorce. Not in the best of spirits. I counted to 1,314 seconds. Just as I was about to reach 15, Fu Qingbai entered with a meal. Beside the plate was my game console. As I waited for him to approach, I reached for the console, but Fu Qingbai preemptively grasped my hand. "Eat first, then play." I gazed at the 3 meat dishes and 1 vegetable, my appetite peaked. Yet, I remembered I was still angry, turning my face away stubbornly. "I want a divorce." Fu Qingbai ignored me, using his chopsticks to bring a piece of cola chicken wing to my lips. "Eat first." I could no longer resist, opening my mouth to bite the chicken wing. The flavor burst forth, delightful and overwhelming. I relished the meal, and Fu Qingbai seemed satisfied feeding me. After swallowing the last spoonful of soup, I reached for my game console. Fu Qingbai did not stop me. He merely asked, "Do you still want a divorce?" I pressed the power button fiercely. Yes. Fu Qingbai's grip on the plate tightened, the veins in his hand bulging, and the tension in his forehead became evident. He attempted to soften his tone, suppressing his obsession. "Darling, isn't the food good?" I switched off the game console. "So what? What does that have to do with the divorce?" Why was it so difficult for him to offer an explanation? I hurriedly wiped the tears from my eyes and turned my body toward the wall. "Fu Qingbai, it was you who insisted on the divorce." Fu Qingbai set down the plate, wrapping his arms tightly around my waist, his warm breath cascading over my neck. If it were someone else, that place would be a gland. But for me, it was merely a flat expanse. I recalled the remarks made by the younger generation during my last visit to the Fu family. "Brother Bai is of the highest caliber, marrying a mere girl. What will happen during the sensitive period every month?" I had to take a week off for your brother's sensitive period. Yet, after countering that, an endless desolation surged within me. Indeed, Although Fu Changbai would pin me to the bed during each sensitive period, he would always sneak off to get injections afterwards. The needle marks on his arm resembled the love bites on my body, dense and overlapping. Remembering this, I pressed my hand against my chest, and the thought of divorce began to rekindle. Fu Changbai tightened his embrace around my waist, his heated breath whispering in my ear. Give me a little time. I will explain everything to you, all right? I did not nod but merely relaxed my tense body. Our hearts, though so close, felt miles apart. My game had been completed for several days, yet Fu Changbai was still unprepared. As he re-entered the room, bearing a feast that was a visual and olfactory delight, I could not restrain my inquiry. How much longer must I wait? Ever since Fu Changbai revealed his true self before me, he ceased to conceal his emotions. His countenance could shift with the slightest provocation. For instance, just a moment ago, his eyes sparkled with mirth, and now they bore an intensity of depth. I am not yet prepared. You should eat first, he replied. It was unclear whether he genuinely needed more time or simply wished to withhold his thoughts from me. Regardless, I found myself devoid of patience. I was torn between the desire to divorce and the reluctance to do so. It felt as though two conflicting selves resided within my mind, their clamorous arguments threatening to overwhelm my sanity. I am giving you 10 minutes to contemplate. After that, I require an answer. Perhaps it was my tone, either too indifferent or resolute, that compelled Fu Changbai to engage sincerely this time. He gently placed the tray down. With my back turned to him, I gazed at the pristine wall, pondering what explanation he might offer. 10 minutes later, I turned to face him, and I was taken aback. Fu Changbai was crying. This was the first time I had witnessed him in tears, silent sobs streaming down his face, exuding an aura of vulnerability. My hands flailed in awkwardness. Why are you crying? I haven't even shed a tear. All I asked for was an explanation, not your life. Why the tears? I hastily wiped away his tears. Fu Changbai grasped my hand, bringing it to his lips, where delicate kisses fell upon my fingertips. Do you not know that one must not leave pheromones? I nodded, of course I understood. So how does this relate to your installation of surveillance and tracking devices? Fu Changbai remained silent, merely posing another question. Do you understand that the more elite one is, the more they lack a sense of security? This I did not know. So wait, are you saying that your installation of surveillance and tracking devices stems from a lack of security? Fu Changbai nodded. Have I ever mentioned my father and my dad? Or my childhood? I shook my head. No. Not only had I seldom encountered his father and dad, but I had rarely visited the Fu family estate. During the few occasions I did, I encountered Fu Qingbai's father, who exuded an air of youthful authority that was rather intimidating. A few simple inquiries from him had left me feeling overwhelmed. Subsequently, my aversion to the haughty relatives of the Fu family, coupled with their disdain for me, led me to avoid family gatherings under various pretenses. Over time, Fu Changbai came to believe that I simply disliked such lively events and gradually ceased to return. I had never heard of the circumstances surrounding his father and dad, and when I had previously inquired about Fu Qingbai's childhood during our conversations, he had deftly sidestepped the topic. Now that he expressed a desire to share, my curiosity was piqued. Fu Changbai cautiously intertwined his fingers with mine. Both my fathers are. The first words he uttered left me utterly flabbergasted. How could that be? How does one conceive a child in such a manner? I stared at Fu Changbai in shock. So, you are not your father's biological child? Fu Changbai gazed at me steadily, his eyes tinged with red, a suppressed chuckle escaping his lips as he pinched my cheek. I averted my gaze, my cheeks flushed. His smile was so captivating, who could resist it? My hasty withdrawal did not escape Fu Qingbai's notice, and he enveloped me in his arms. See, my entire being belongs to you. I pushed him away, my face still warm. You'll soon be my ex-husband. Fu Changbai could not abide this, his expression darkening once more, like a storm on the horizon. I gritted my teeth, deciding to drop the facade. Continue. Fu Changbai seized my hand and pressed a fervent kiss to my fingertip. I was born of my dad. My mouth fell agape, capable of accommodating an egg. So, your father permitted your dad to give birth to you? Indeed. Fu Changbai traced the outline of my lips with his fingertips, his eyes gleaming with a familiar eagerness. A blended family? Was it not said that reproductive organs had evolved? How then could one become pregnant? Was it an imposition? Perhaps my incredulity was too evident. For Fu Changbai elaborated. My dad endured great hardship in bringing me into this world, nearly losing his life in the process. Consequently, my father harbored resentment towards me. I became his Achilles heel, intended to bind my dad to him, yet unexpectedly, I almost cost my dad his life. What? Who was the Achilles heel? Binding whom? For the first time, I felt a pang of inadequacy in my grasp of Chinese. Fu Chengbai continued. Regrettably, I proved ineffective. My dad fled on my first birthday. Wait, although interrupting was impolite, I felt compelled to interject at this moment. Why did your dad flee? Did he not love your father? Now it was Fu Chengbai who appeared puzzled. Why must there be love? My dad did not love my father. He was merely my uncle's fiancé, who was taken by my father. The intricacies of affluent families sent me reeling. I longed to retreat to my hometown. I was enveloped in a daze as Fu Chengbai held me close. I know not whether they loved each other. I only know that both installed tracking devices on each other, seeking that absurd sense of security. In the somber elegance of Fu Chengbai's voice, I gradually comprehended the origins of his peculiar tendencies. Heredity. If his father was eccentric, his dad was no saint either. What with the subdermal tracking devices and real-time updates? Was he not abducted? Why harbor such a strong possessiveness over someone who had taken him? Fu Chengbai's father installed surveillance at home, while Fu Chengbai's dad fitted his partner with tracking devices. Now here was Fu Chengbai doing both. A perfect case of learning the worst from the best. I lay weakly in Fu Chengbai's embrace, contemplating that this was not solely his fault. It was his family's failure to instill a proper moral compass that led him to emulate such behaviors. A blurred image flickered before my eyes. A small Fu Chengbai, clad in a miniature suit, pitifully pounding on a closed door, only to receive no response. He could only sit on the steps, hugging his knees and weeping. My heart melted instantly. But you cannot follow in your father's and dad's footsteps. You know this is wrong. I attempted to guide him gently. Fu Chengbai peppered my face with tender kisses. But I feel so insecure. I cannot leave my scent on you, and every day when you return home, I can detect the scents of many others upon you. This was the first time I directly sensed Fu Chengbai's jealousy. After all, at that moment, he was nearly devouring the flesh of my cheek. So, darling, please don't divorce me? Fu Chengbai's earlier gloom dissipated, resembling a deity descending from his pedestal, beseeching for my compassion. He was so careful it was heart-wrenching. My hand, suspended in the air, ultimately descended onto Fu Chengbai's form. In return, I embraced him tightly, matching his fervor. I emerged from the vacant room at the end of the corridor. As Fu Chengbai unfastened my bracelet, there was a hint of reluctance. I too felt a pang of unwillingness as I stepped out. Frankly, I did not desire to return to work. I wished to be catered to and live that way for a lifetime. Yet, I could not permit Fu Chengbai to shoulder the burden of our home alone. I gently urged myself, successfully suppressing the thought of being locked away again deep within my heart. I resumed my 9-to-5 routine. Fu Chengbai began to escort me to and from work each day. Everyone at the office envied my good fortune. A handsome and wealthy husband by my side. I remained silent, merely pressing the snooze button of the alarm clock that rings every 10 minutes. I then opened the chat window with Fu Chengbai, updating him on my current activities in real time. Days pass in a monotonous haze, and I recall the basement. Did you purchase all the items in the basement yourself? After an event concludes, I rest my weary legs on Fu Chengbai's shoulder, casting him a reproachful glare. Unperturbed, he brazenly asserts, "Those things are worthless." Exhaustion and frustration swirl within me as I place my foot on the source of my fatigue. What do you intend to do with them? Are those items even usable? I kick away his hand that grips my ankle, issuing my final command. Get rid of everything by tomorrow. I want to inspect it after work. Fu Chengbai, dissatisfied, rises to kiss me. A kiss ignites the flames of desire. Another night of absurdity ensues. The following day, I leave work early and head to the basement. Upon seeing the glass display case brimming with items, I take out my phone to make a call. Before I can dial, a protrusion on the display catches my eye. Approaching it, I press down, and with a rumble, a wall opposite the display case swings open. Warm light floods the space, revealing a red satin box adorned with jewels. I step closer and open it, instantly taken aback. Inside are not gold or silver treasures, but a collection of odd trinkets, bottle caps, cigarette butts, pen caps, and even a white shirt. I recognize the shirt. It belongs to a club I joined during college, where we received matching outfits for significant events. Each garment was embroidered with our names. My heart races as I swallow hard, lifting the shirt to inspect it. The name embroidered on it reads Zhou. The shirt is mine, but what of these items? Just as I begin to ponder, a pair of hands stealthily encircle my waist, akin to a specter. Before I can react in shock, my body recognizes him first. Fu Chengbai. What are these items about? He reaches over to retrieve items from the box, offering explanations for each. His deep, husky voice carries warmth, yet beneath it lies an unsettling blend of obsession and pathological extremes. This is the last bottle of water you drank during the sophomore sports meet. This is the first cigarette you smoked. This is the first love letter I wrote to you. My initial astonishment and confusion morph into a numbing rigidity. So, Fu Chenghua harbored feelings for me since our university days? Does that mean every time I thought I was covertly glancing at him, he was actually aware? An indescribable mixture of shame and something else constricts my heart. I weakly cover his mouth, whispering, "Stop talking." Fu Chenghua gazes intently at me, his light-colored eyes exclusively focused on my being. "Can I show you one last thing?" I nod, and he retrieves a stack of papers from the bottom of the box. I take them, they are medical records. Patient. Fu Chenghua. Confirmed information pheromone disorder. Severe reactions to pheromones. Uncertain diagnosis. Patient. Fu Chenghua. Confirmed severe paranoia requiring pharmacological control. Patient. Fu Chenghua. Glandular damage. Unable to attain destiny. Reliant on partner for. My eyes fixate on the phrase glandular damage. I anxiously grasp Fu Chenghua's arm. My voice hoarse. What does this mean? What is wrong with the glands? Why are they damaged? Fu Chenghua embraces me, kissing the corner of my eye. I only love you. You are the only one in my life. Severe susceptibility during this phase without the calming pheromones would be agonizing. Yet, he prefers to forego the glands. He only desires his wife. I perceive the meaning in Fu Chenghua's eyes as bitterness spreads in my throat. You are too impulsive. He cradles my face, resting his forehead against mine. No, I have deliberated. Loving you was a decision I pondered for a mere second. I release the medical records from my grasp and kiss Fu Chenghua earnestly. Go seek treatment. I will accompany you. Fu Chenghua pauses. How long can you stay? I willingly nestle into his embrace. A lifetime. He softly replies, yes, a lifetime. You accompany me for a lifetime, and I will love you for a lifetime. Fu Chenghua's side story. The items in the basement were intentionally left for my wife to discover. I wanted her to see my true self. Thus, I deliberately prompted her to retrieve something from the nightstand, leading her to find the hidden camera. Yet, when she truly learned the truth, I regretted it. Zhou mentioned divorce. In that instant, a corner of my world crumbled. I attempted to mask the fractures beneath a calm exterior. However, the moment Zhou returned, enveloped in an unfamiliar scent, my sanity shattered. I retrieved the medication I had long prepared, pouring it into a glass of milk without the slightest tremor. Zhou explained the reason for his late return, but I could not absorb a single word, fixated solely on his desire to divorce, his intention to leave me. If he truly departed from my life, it would be irrevocable. I still remember the first time I encountered him at the start of our freshman year. As seniors, we were tasked with welcoming the new students. I found such events tedious, requiring me to maintain a FA. I took a cigarette to the restroom, where nicotine alleviated my agitation. A single cigarette could sustain my polished gentlemanly appearance for 4 hours. To my surprise, I found someone in the restroom. I met Zhou's gaze as he emerged from the stall, his thick bangs and black-rimmed glasses framing panic in his eyes. He appeared as if he had just wept. The corners of his eyes reddened, resembling a rabbit. There was no trace of pheromone scent on him, neither alpha nor omega, just a pitiful creature, akin to a rabbit. I extinguished the cigarette with my fingertips. The heat from the ember spread to my heart. He awkwardly greeted me, and I smiled in return. That night, he invaded my dreams, his eyes even redder. He cried out for me, calling me brother, senior, husband, begging for mercy, unaware that it would only heighten my excitement. Upon waking, I observed the dampness on my sheets, realizing I had experienced what my father termed love at first sight. He had once recounted how, upon returning from abroad, he met my uncle's fiancée at the Fu family home. Just one glance, and he declared that she must be his. I cannot deny that I inherited my father's base instincts. In this moment I, too, felt that Zhou must be mine. I longed to embrace him, yet I could not. I watched the individuals my father had assigned to monitor me, burying my desires deep within. My father held high expectations for me, compelling me to wear a mask daily. But now, I sought not only survival but power, for I had obtained what I desired. I began to engage with the company, aided by my father's influence. At social gatherings, I noticed Zhou cautiously glancing at me, and I pondered if he harbored feelings for me as well. I endured the temptation and eventually smiled, requesting his contact information. Witnessing Zhou's delight as he clutched his phone intensified my desires. I needed to expedite my plans to dethrone my father. 3 years, just 3 years. Yet, I did not anticipate the ensuing complications. My father discovered that his shares had been maliciously acquired. He demanded a thorough investigation, and he ensnared my father. I initiated my final harvest. The moment the Fu family was entirely within my grasp, Zhou Yu had already graduated. I approached him only to learn that he was being set up on blind dates. I maintained a smile, soothing him, all the while my teeth nearly ground to dust in frustration. I feigned urgency at home to gently entice him. Indeed, he took the bait. The moment he professed his agreement, my subterranean sanctuary was officially completed. Post-marriage, Zhou Yu became increasingly reliant on me. During my vulnerable periods, he would cautiously envelop me in his embrace, murmuring, "Darling, I shall resolve this for you." During those tumultuous phases of emotional volatility and insecurity, I could only repeatedly sink my teeth into the nape of his neck, attempting to infuse him with my pheromones. Yet, those attempts proved futile. They neither penetrated nor lingered. To prevent myself from spiraling into madness and causing him harm, I opted against using my glands. The injections administered during my sensitive periods were not suppressants but rather agents designed to induce glandular atrophy. I intentionally left the injection sites unhealed. Observing Zhou Yu's tender expression as he allowed me to act upon him filled me with a sense of satisfaction, yet simultaneously ignited an insatiable desire within me. What would happen if my wife were to uncover my true nature? Would he seek a divorce? Would he abandon me? The mere thought of such possibilities plunged me into a suffocating gloom, akin to sprouts emerging after a rainstorm, growing wildly. I recognized that I had inherited the psychological afflictions of my father and my mother. Desiring not to harm Zhou Yu, I sought the counsel of a psychologist. The doctor suggested a closed treatment. I dismissed him. Without Zhou Yu, my afflictions would remain untreatable. I dared not reveal my true self to him, fearing that the affection reflected in his eyes would transform into horror. Thus, I endured, suppressing my true self for 3 long years. Eventually, I found myself unable to contain it any longer. Rather than allowing Zhou Yu to discover the truth by accident, I yearned to unveil it myself. As I had anticipated, he proposed divorce. I turned to my father, who provided me with a box of injections containing cyanide, potassium, and magnesium chloride, agents capable of inducing secondary differentiation. Once marked, one could never escape its grasp. Yet I refrained from using them. I gazed at the man who vowed to accompany me through a lifetime of illness and pushed the medicine box into the depths of my being. Let me witness how long a lifetime truly is for my wife. I hope it truly spans a lifetime. Zhou Yu, deceiving is akin to a puppy. The narrative concludes here. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and like to support us. Until we meet again in the next tale.